It starts quietly. No one notices at first. You're sitting in a familiar room, school, home, somewhere ordinary, when suddenly nothing feels familiar at all. The room looks the same, people still talk around you, but you feel like you're behind glass. Present, but not really here. Maybe you're 14 hearing your parents argue. Maybe you're 18 sitting in a lecture. Maybe you're younger, witnessing something you didn't have the tools to process. And something deep in your brain clicks, this is too much, don't be here. So you don't. Your awareness fades, your emotions go silent, and you slip into a protective fog. This is how a person disappears. Not physically, psychologically. You continue to move, talk, smile, nod, but it's all autopilot. From the outside, you look fine. Maybe quiet, maybe tired, but fine. No one asks, where did you go? They don't realize that inside, you feel like a ghost. And the question lingers beneath everything, even unspoken. At what cost? This invisible state has a name: derealization, when the world feels unreal, and depersonalization, when you feel unreal. These experiences often weave together. And if they persist, they shape adulthood, relationships, identity, and how safe you feel in your own mind. Understanding the psychology behind them matters, because without understanding, people end up living in patterns designed for survival rather than connection. Let's clarify the mechanism. Derealization and depersonalization are forms of dissociation, the brain's way of disconnecting from reality or from the self when overwhelmed. It's not malfunction, it's protection. Think of it as the brain's emergency eject button. If I can't escape this physically, I'll escape mentally. Most people experience brief dissociative moments at least once in life during panic, shock, or extreme stress. But persistent or recurrent episodes can develop into depersonalization, derealization disorder. It affects a small percentage of people chronically, often beginning in the teen years or early adulthood. And despite being quiet and invisible, it can be profoundly distressing. When dissociation becomes a repeated coping strategy, it rewires the stress circuits of the brain. If someone grows up around chaos, emotional neglect, or sudden overwhelming events, the mind learns that reality itself is dangerous. Instead of fighting or fleeing, the brain chooses a third option: numbing. Over time, this becomes automatic. You feel a little overwhelmed? The switch flips. You're not in danger, but your brain acts like you are. This creates a unique form of hypervigilance. Not scanning for external danger, but scanning your own sense of reality. Do I feel normal? Is this real? Am I about to dissociate? The more you monitor it, the more detached you feel. You panic about the sensation, which increases anxiety, which fuels more unreality. It becomes a loop. You feel unreal, you worry, you feel more unreal. So you start performing your life instead of living it. You laugh when others laugh. You say, I'm fine, because explaining derealization feels impossible. You appear functional, maybe even highly functional, but the mask feels more like a shell. And underneath that shell is a quiet ache. A part of you whispers, I want to feel alive again. That part never disappeared. It's still inside, waiting. As this pattern continues, the psychological effects deepen. Some people develop hyper-independence, not because they're confident, but because depending on others requires vulnerability and presence. Others notice joy feels muted or distant. Happy moments feel like observing someone else's life from a few steps away. Not because they don't want to feel, but because the brain became too good at suppressing emotion. Stillness becomes uncomfortable. Silence becomes threatening. Being present feels unnatural. That's the psychology of derealization, not a personal flaw, but an adaptation to chronic overwhelm. Why does the mind do this? Because dissociation is self-protection. When faced with too much pain, fear, or emotional demand, the mind chooses distance over collapse. It's instinct, not choice. In that moment, the brain thinks it's saving your life. But what once saved you can imprison you now. The shield becomes a cage. You survive the worst moments by disconnecting, but later you struggle to connect with the best moments too. You appear as a calm, stable, functional adult, but internally you feel separate from your own experiences. Many people in this state hold a quiet fantasy that someone will notice the haze behind their eyes and reach in to pull them out. That the right person will say, you're safe now, you can come back. That fantasy belongs to the younger version of you, the one who needed protection but didn't receive it. Healing starts with acknowledging that something did happen, not minimizing it, not comparing it, not gaslighting yourself with, it wasn't that bad. If it left you feeling unreal, it was overwhelming enough. This recognition is the first step out of the fog, because until you see what happened, you'll continue believing derealization is something defective about you instead of something adaptive your mind did for you. If unaddressed, derealization shapes adulthood in subtle ways. You may never feel safe, even in calm places. You may struggle in relationships. Intimacy requires presence, which triggers discomfort. Kindness can feel suspicious. Compliments feel undeserved. You might be the supportive friend who never shows your own pain, because emotional visibility still feels threatening. You apologize for tears. You interpret exhaustion as strength, and you wait silently for permission to finally break down and be real. But no one can rescue the version of you who disconnected. That is your role now. Healing means going back to that overwhelmed part of yourself and saying, you weren't weak, you were overwhelmed, you survived, and now it's safe to return. This is the essence of regrounding and self-reconnection. It's not about forcing yourself to feel real instantly. It's about slowly rebuilding a sense of safety so your brain no longer believes it needs to escape. It's a difficult process. It requires allowing emotions that were suppressed for years: grief, anger, fear, loneliness. It requires mourning lost time, lost presence, lost versions of life you didn't fully inhabit. It requires acknowledging needs you've ignored for years. This is not regression, it's thawing. As you heal, dissociation may show up in daily patterns: being the therapist friend, avoiding vulnerability, struggling to assert boundaries, staying silent to keep peace, or becoming an over-functioner in relationships. Nothing here is a fixed personality trait. These are coping strategies, and the mind can learn new ones. A powerful step is asking yourself, what did I need back then that I never received? Safety? Reassurance? Validation? Comfort? Someone to notice you were overwhelmed? Whatever the answer, your task now is to offer that to yourself through grounding, through support, through routines, through self-kindness, through therapy, or simply through the willingness to finally acknowledge your own experience. This is how you teach your brain that the danger has passed. This is how you reclaim reality, not all at once, but moment by moment. Some moments will feel deeply real, others won't. That's part of recovery. You're learning to return to your life after years of being half removed from it. If you let yourself, you will slowly come back. You'll feel glimpses of presence, warm, vivid, brief, and over time, they will grow. You might cry in front of someone for the first time. You might laugh without analyzing the feeling. You might say, I'm struggling, instead of pretending. These are small but profound proofs that you're healing. You may grieve what dissociation took from you. That grief is valid, but you also have a future, and now you have the chance to show up for it fully. You are not broken. You are returning. You are learning to be here again. Little by little, you step back into the world that waited for you. And the world is still here, vivid, tangible, real. Welcome back. You're going to be okay. If you have ever experienced derealization yourself, tell us in the comments about your experience and perhaps how you overcame it. Thanks for watching, and until next time,